We are 9 episodes into The Way Home, and I don't think I am any closer to understanding really what is going on than I was at episode 1. How are you feeling, Andrea?
I think so as well. I do have thoughts. I don't
Oh,
think this
I
episode was for us.
I have thoughts too, and this episode created way more questions for me than answers. So, shall we dive into the pool?
Well, I'll go into a pond. You can hit the
Into the
pool.
pond. See, I don't even know
You
where
hit
I'm
the
at
pool. I'll
anymore.
hit the pond.
I'm so confused. These bodies of water. Well,
Uh,
this is Eric.
this is Andrea.
This is Hallmark Mysteries and
And
more.
more.
This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel.
Okay, Andrea.
All right. Well, this episode, shocker of a description. Too late to turn back now. The Landry women pick up the pieces of their past as Jacob looks towards the future. So this is one that I was like, maybe I was like half paying attention to. That's what I assumed. Well, I watched it the first time. So I watched it a second time this morning and nope, I was paying attention. I just, again, just like you had said, I have more questions. So we'll start with what I liked. So I was intrigued by Dell's parents and why she left her family. So the way she said they're so consumed with the past and what they were that they can't see present day. And I wrote that down because I'm like, this really just hits the way home hard because isn't that what basically the whole cast is doing or has been the last 3 seasons, right?
Yep.
So that line really was like, wait, was it like a dig or was that supposed to be eye-opening? Because it seemed like obviously towards the end of this episode, maybe Dell started to awaken that she was repeating her parents' behavior because she has been living so much in the past that she is not able to live in the present. But again, it seems like every character on this show, that is what they're doing. So I found that intriguing. I also liked that there was an Alanis Morissette reference because I love Alanis Morissette. Strong 90s vibe there. So that was exciting. As you're in a record store right now.
I am
Not really,
a
but his
70s
background
store.
is.
70s record.
I also liked that Alice and Max shared that kiss. I thought that was kind of fun. I like that those two can go together, which I did do a poll. So remind me
I
to
know. I'm excited. Best
first.
poll you've done all
Yes.
year.
That was actually somebody requested that one if I would do that. So I was like, ooh, what?
Kudos.
So they were just going to do originally. Well, we'll get to that later, actually. Well, I'll pause that. My last one was this is what I liked. I liked that Jacob was caught on camera trying to burn down the vineyard because his friend Danny gave him
I
his
know.
code. So, like, you're going to get your friend in trouble. And I'm a little worried about, like, this poor Danny. Like, Danny is just been traumatized by Jacob for how many years? And then he comes back and steals his coat and he's going to be traumatized more. And I'm sure, I mean, I can see Danny, I hope they don't do this, but being like, no, that was me in the vineyard, even though it wasn't because he feels so much guilt around Jacob in the first place when it was not his fault. So I'm a little concerned.
Do we know
But I
how
do
old
like,
they are, like Jacob is?
well, what I would say they would be 7 years younger than that. So what, early 30s?
Okay,
Cats
because yeah,
around their
Cat's
40s?
around 40, is
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
okay,
That
okay.
would be my guess because they seemed about seven-ish years apart when they disappeared. So that would be mine. What about you? What did you like about this episode?
I really liked the scene with Max and Alice where he was talking to her about that message he had from Evie that he, let go to voicemail, that he was too busy, and then just telling the stories about his relationship with her. She was so good at chess, and just everything about that scene was really good. It was really tender in the way that Max was just talking about it. And then obviously had that connection with Alice, who, it's kind of, I don't want to be with him. I don't want to be with him, but gotta be with him. Right. And then they had the kiss. So, like I said before, last week, Max and Thomas are the two characters I like. So getting to see Max have that showcase really of his character for me was really enjoyable.
Mm. That was it.
I pretty much
Woo!
every week have my one
One
scene that really sticks
one
out to me,
thing.
and then I have a whole bunch of
What you don't like.
others.
Well, that's good because I don't have a ton of others per se. So I have the same thing as you. As I left with a lot more questions. I know people are like, "Yes, you answered our questions." And I was like, "I feel like they answered none of mine. I am asking the wrong questions." But my one question I now have is, what is Jacob doing with his life? Like, what is this guy doing? Like, I'm glad he was caught on camera because mostly I'm like concerned for him as a human being of like you've been carrying, and I get it, like for him it hasn't been this 300 years. For him it's like present day, like it just happened a week ago. Like that's hard. That's probably very hard for him to deal with, but again, he probably needs some therapy and some maybe move away from Port Haven is what he needs to do, just to kind of get away from the
Move to
founding
New York.
fathers. Like he needs yeah, yes, he needs a little different environment to thrive in, I think. So for me, I feel like for us as casual fans of this show, or myself, I guess this is maybe a casual fan, maybe not you, a forced fan of this show, this episode wasn't for us. That's what I left with. Because again, I was high in it last week, and this week I know a lot of the like diehard fans, they really enjoyed it. But again, I think for the casual fan, maybe it was a little bit more of a miss because we didn't have
Hmm.
necessarily these questions that everyone else did. And so for me, I didn't get as many answered because those weren't some of my big questions that I had. Actually, I don't really know what big questions I still have left, but for me, it didn't have as much sparkle as the last maybe couple did. So, what about you? What did you not like?
Well, kind of some of the writing with it kind of seemed at odds with itself. You
Hmm.
know, a cat saying, "How was it possible that Colton was back in 1816?" We know exactly how it was possible. He's got a pond that allows you to time travel, right? So, I mean, the real question should have been like, or the statement like, "Wow, what a shock that he was there back then." But you already had Jacob saying, "Hey, he came back and told us to what to plant. He was there, so they knew." And so I did heard like shock of him being there was kind of weird for me. And then Kat's like, "Oh, I'm going to help Elijah." And what is she going to be doing? Like when she's talking about getting like the community hates her. They think she's a witch, right? So I don't think Kat's the
She was
like
struggling with that 2x4 or whatever she was lifting as
yes.
well.
So, whatever. I don't know what she's supposed to do. Um, I also think like, when Elliot goes back and then he sees like all the town people see him when they come at the end. If they were looking at that dude in his 2025 clothes, they would be like, "Damn, the witch is going ahead bringing some like warlock here or something like that," because he would be standing out. Instead, everyone's there just loading and unloading wood, doing everything, like not looking at the really strange guy who's walking out of the house. So I don't know. I don't know. Um, oh, I guess going back to the thing is I did like that it did explain that Colton's time travel, right? How he did it a couple times, but unlike, Kat and Alice, he couldn't do it whenever he wanted.
But so then they're convinced that he didn't time travel, but we've seen him time travel as an adult. Remember, we have seen a flashback of him, I think it was last year, as an adult peeking in on a scene.
Oh,
And then we've also seen him, I'm pretty sure it was him that went through the field that Alice followed like at the start of this
okay.
season. So again, like I have
Well, at
more,
that
again,
time, I
more
guess he didn't.
questions.
At the time, he didn't know that because that was the future, right? So he didn't know he would time
But you
travel
think that
later.
he
But
didn't,
it did explain at least that he did time travel. So we do know for sure he time travels. Whereas as
I
opposed
mean,
to them trying to
we knew
hint
that
that he
last
doesn't.
episode.
Well,
Because remember,
look,
we saw him save Jacob. We knew that last episode,
oh
Eric.
yeah, yeah, but when you're right. Whatever. I guess I was trying to like something. You helped me understand I shouldn't. And Jacob, yes, while he needs therapy, he also needs to learn how to go into his computer, do some settings to learn how to put it, a screensaver or maybe have it go to sleep. So when you are sitting here searching how to burn down the neighbor's vineyard, the evidence doesn't stay on your screen for everyone to see hours later, right? So someone needs to teach Jacob a little bit of,
He doesn't know.
computer
He
discretion.
doesn't know. That's a new thing. New thing,
And
Eric.
and then before I get to my big questions, at the end, did Dell stay, like said, get in the car, the truck, whatever, go home? Did she then stay at the farm, at the vineyard?
I'm
Like she
assuming
sent
she
him away.
left,
She
but I
sent
don't
Jake,
know.
right? She didn't go with him, did she?
Maybe we'll
I
find
don't,
out. Is she
because I
gonna
think,
burn
yeah,
down the
that's what I'm wondering.
vineyard?
I'm
But then
thinking,
that's gonna be caught on camera.
I don't know whatever. All right. Now we're going to go into the birds and bees, okay? And we're going to have a little lesson on how this works.
Oh boy.
The Landry family tree
Okay.
is Jacob, or excuse me, is Elijah, right?
Yep.
Does Elijah have any kids? He had Jacob. Does he have any other
Um,
kids?
Eric, again, they probably already answered that. I don't know. I
Okay.
mean,
I don't think he has any other kids. So how does the Landry family keep going for generations if he's this old guy who's not having any more kids and he had this adopted son, Jacob? Which brings us to the other one is, yes, I do remember. And once again, I did not remember until I was prompted about Augustine and Elliot and Susanna. How does that line continue? Because
I had that same
her
question.
her and Cyrus are not having any kids.
That's
And
what I was
also,
wondering. Yeah.
her being a woman,
Yeah.
this is 1816. She's not like, oh, I'm a feminist. I'm keeping the Augustine name.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how does she have descendants? Because that's
Yeah.
how, once again, people maybe need to learn the birds and the bees, but that's how the names pass on is by having kids. And nobody in that 18, 14, 16 era is having any kids. So I don't
I
know
had
how
that
this
same
is going on.
question after watching it today for the second time. I literally was like, wait, okay, so Susanna is going to have a kid with Cyrus? Or how does that? Did she have a kid?
And
Because remember, we had said that Jacob Jr., but that was not. No, 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 no. Somebody did tell me this as I'm now thinking. So remember, I had my Jacob Jr. theory. No, there's no Jacob
okay,
Jr. in that regard. There Elijah had a kid that was named Jacob, and we never meet him, I guess, but he is somewhere.
he
He
has
lives
two
somewhere.
Jacobs,
Well,
like real
again,
Jacob and adopted
and
Jacob.
then no, like his actual son Jacob, who no longer lives in Port Haven, it seems, and then Jacob, who came back,
Right.
which
So he's got
obviously
two Jacobs.
it's part of his family line, the name. So they went
Um,
back and saw that. So yes, that is what I'm recalling. And who knows? Maybe they have other kids that don't live there anymore,
okay.
which would be
Which,
rare, I guess, probably in those 1800s.
right, you have 13 kids because you need to
Well, and you stay
do
around
the
the neighborhood.
and you need to, manage the farm. And this sounds whatever, but going back to that time too, they died a lot, and that was part of the reason why people had a lot of kids. So,
Well, the Susanna one is really perplexing to me because
and
I had that same like, wait, how does she have? Because
right, and if she
especially
married
as a
again,
female in the 1800s, like that would be a big scandal,
right, and if
right?
she marries again, it's not keeping her name, right? Like she would then take on Mr. Smith or whoever she married after Cyrus dies. I don't know. Maybe well, you know what? If you understand this, people, please send us a DM and explain it because I will admit, maybe they introduced Susanna's cousin, Joe Augustine or whatever, Bobby Augustine over there or something like that. I don't know. But that's where I'm like, I'm trying to figure out all these whatever.
It's a lot to keep track of. It's a lot.
So I think they just like, oh, oops, it's Hallmark. We don't have sex, so we don't have babies. We just magically continue the lines.
Oh gosh. Well, is that all that you don't like?
Is that all? Everything other than Max being a cool dude. Yes.
Okay. Well, standout senior performance. You kind of briefly mentioned this. I wanted to as well, but actually, maybe you didn't. I loved the little nod between Elliot and Thomas. That little like,
Oh.
I got her. Okay, you got her. Yep, I'm gonna go. And for me, it reminded me of the Traders this week because at the table, Danielle and Brittany gave each other a nod that they need to vote for Ivor. And then, do you know who Ivor looks like? He looks like Thomas, bringing it all full circle for everyone. So, for all the Trader fans out there, for all
Is he
five of
wearing
you,
1816 clothing?
no, but
Oh.
he is related to the British royal.
Oh.
So, yes. So it's a very fun little connection there. But that all connected the dots for me. I'm like, oh, I loved that little nod. And that's what it reminded me of. Because The Traitors is an amazing show if you haven't watched Highly Recommend.
What we watched the first season.
You did?
Yes. So what we did is with my daughter in Boston, we would like FaceTime while we watch it together.
Did you like
And
it?
her
Now,
two,
this was
two
recent?
a
Or was
couple
this when
weeks
it first aired?
we finished a couple weeks ago. And I think, and so her two of her coworkers think it's the greatest thing ever. And
Yes.
but we think like being the first season is kind of the clunky season where they're trying to figure things out
Yeah.
because a lot of things were like, but everyone talks about how great it is. So I'm thinking maybe seasons 2 and on
Well, there's only
are
3 seasons for the American version. Now there's other versions as well, but season 2 won a lot of awards. Season
okay.
1, I found the ending to be brutally hard. I don't want to give any spoilers, but that was like, oh. But
Oh yeah.
season 2, I loved. That was probably my favorite. Now this year is not as standout for me, but season 2 was my favorite of the 3.
Okay.
So
So I think we're gonna give it a go. We're watching Top Level
it's
Chef
good.
right now, and then Top Level Chef we may switch into Traders too.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, what about you? What was your standout scene and performance?
The only scene I liked. So Max and Alice hanging out together. So that was a good scene, whether it be Max's little talk or the kiss. So both parts of it.
Well, what are we hoping is coming or not coming? For me, I just wrote answers on something because I still am in the camp of I need more answers. Like what answers? I don't know, but like I feel like we are still a lot of loose threads out there. And I want a few more tied up before we go in. Well, supposedly this has not been picked up for
Oh, that's what I was going to
season.
ask. Is there
No,
season 4?
that is what I've been hearing. And so some people are concerned that this could be the last episode or the last episode of everything, tying everything together next week, since they haven't made an official announcement. And this was Lisa Hamilton Daly's kind of baby. Like this was her
Right.
project that she brought from Netflix. Plus, who knows? Maybe that, I mean, talking with Dylan, though, I guess actors would probably want that reoccurring paycheck from week to week. But, maybe some of them, I could see some of them going on to bigger and better things. So like Sadie, the young
Yeah.
Alice, like I can see her. I mean, she's been brilliant. So I can see her career kind of taken off. So that I will be curious to see if we are going to get a season 4 or maybe someone knows that. Let us know that as well. What about you?
That we get the 10th episode. And that means
That's
there's
and
no
we're done.
11th. We get to finish our weekly reviews of The Way Home.
Well, I will go into my polls then, since I had some polls. I did 2 polls. And so my first poll was
Was shocking.
What did you think of last night's episode? 36% loved it. 33% still have questions. Nope, 13%. And then 18% still are not watching. And then
Okay, that came down because when I voted, which was nope, it was something like 49% loved it.
Yeah, no. No. And now with the next one I asked, who should Alice end up with? Max was at 44%. Noah is at 19%. Team Nick is at 12%. I threw him in there because I read online people still want her to be with Nick, and which I think is I'm just grossed out by that whole theory.
Wait, like adult Nick?
I don't know. Like that's where I'm like, none of it makes sense to me.
I hope
But
not adult Nick.
12% voted for him. And then 25%. So the next one is team someone new. So if they're not, it's either Max or someone new is kind of the poll, which I would totally agree with myself. So Well, let's take ourselves out of that pond and let's go into something maybe just as messy. The Spencer sisters, the Divas disaster. Candace Buchanan calls Victoria after she's accused of the attempted murder of her co-star. Woo! Well, this episode was an episode. I have thoughts on that. Personally, though, loved the mystery in this one. I always like the on-set acting problem. So like obviously we're watching a TV show, but when they're acting like there's a movie going on or something, that one always works for me. It made me think of the Aurora Teagarden Last Seen Alive movie because that's kind of happening there. There's a Diagnosis Murder episode where there's the Country Music Awards. That's probably one of my favorite Diagnosis Murder ones. Highly recommend if you haven't. And they actually have country music stars from like the 90s in it. So it's kind of cool to see them perform and sing. I actually like for myself that Candace sent a copy of the book to Darby at the end
Oh,
to have her read it to understand her mother better. Now that also is going to come into my what I didn't like as well, which everyone probably could see coming. For myself on my critiques of this
I
show,
have a feeling maybe you what you didn't like is I very much liked, but keep going.
hmm, yeah, I'm very curious to see what if we are on the same page of that weird. Okay. So what I really liked though, personally, this was probably one of my favorite episodes, minus how it ended. I have not watched the last episode. I totally wanted to, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna
Same.
wait. I'm gonna give it myself the pause because I wanted to do this review without knowing what's ahead and having those resolutions
Yep.
potentially, or maybe not, or more cliffhangers. So that's kind of where I'm at with this one. I did like the Lucas, and just as we had said, that Lucas Lindsay, they seem to be on the fence here. Seems to be a little rocky, and especially after the scene of them in the hospital. Like I'm very curious to see. Kind of sniffed that out that we're headed in that direction, or would have been if there is going to be a season two.
So in that scene where he's dying and Darby helps rescue him, and then obviously Lindsay comes in. Do you do you think I think his reaction actually was kind of normal where she got upset that he was like, "Thank you for saving my life." Like I don't know. It didn't see it seemed and maybe it's because there's a lot of emotional baggage going on that it was more
It seemed
different circumstance. Maybe it wouldn't be a big deal, but I
No,
don't know.
it seemed for me, if I was Lindsay, this is a reaction I think that she gave the actress as well. Just a beautiful like, huh. I've had in my gut that there's something going on between these two, and now what he just did, like what's happening here, my gut is right. There is something going on. He is not in love with me as much as he maybe thinks he should be or wants to be. He is in love with someone else. That was her realization just by the look that she gave. That's what I
Yeah.
got from that scene.
Okay. I can see it. Because I could,
So,
like I say, I think under different circumstances, his what he did wouldn't have been a big deal, but
oh no, I think she,
based on what's going on, it is
yeah,
a huge deal. So yeah, okay.
correct. Yeah. What about you? What did you like?
I love creepy guys in the basement is where I shine. That line from Darby was hilarious. Coupled with the fact then the guy sees Victoria and completely shuts the door on Darby right after she
Oh my
delivers
God,
that
that was
line,
so good.
which was hilarious. Loved that. Um, the the fact that it was not in Detroit, but it did reference Detroit, and the bad guy was from Michigan. Well, somehow he was out in BC, but his dad, I guess, was in Michigan or something like that. So whenever that you got your Minnesota, I get my Michigan and Detroit. So I thought that was great. And then I think you'll hit it a little later, but I love the ending. I thought it was super raw, super emotional. They had it out. Like you said, whether or not when the book got delivered with the note saying, "Hey, your mom's book tour," like I don't know if she knew she was like spilling the beans or she assumed by that point she knew what was going on and didn't like mean it that way. But it obviously instigated a lot of pent up. And I think this is where maybe it sort of reveals some of the the issues that the two of them have, where Darby clearly looks at her dad on this pedestal and he's, no longer there. So there's no way to knock him off it because he's frozen in time there, right? Whereas Victoria is a parent, and we're both parents. We know we shelter our kids, right? We do everything we can just to make life as perfect and wonderful and pain-free as possible for them. So I thought it was really good. In fact, I was watching it when I was watching it my second time. My wife walks by and she's like, "I thought you were watching Hallmark. That's not a Hallmark movie." And I was like, "Oh, it is," because like I say, it got pretty heavy. But so I have a question for you. As we just talked about Lucas and Lindsay, but what about Darby and Zane? They kind of had a lot of conflict in this one. How are you feeling about like Darby being mad at Zane or Zane being mad at Darby? Like, do you think one is right, one wrong? They both are kind of right. They both are kind of wrong. Where do you fall on that one?
That was in what I didn't like. I didn't like the fight
Oh,
between Darby and Zane. I thought he brought up some good points. They were tough, but that kind of goes back to the comment that he made about her, Darby being like, your mom's a narcissist. And I found at the end of this episode, I'm like, actually, Darby seems like quite the narcissist herself. And she comes off like I hate her at the end of this episode. I'm like, I don't like her. Like she came off as exactly maybe what Zane portrayed in that hospital, of a little bit of that, because she was so mean to her mom and like could not understand or could not even put herself in her mom's shoes to understand why her mom might have that experience, which I'm just like, can you not, like, your mom is telling you this is her, everything. Like, she laid it all out there and then she just didn't respond to it well. That was a big thing of what I actually hated. So I did not like that fight with them, not from the sense that they brought it up. I guess when I'm reflecting back, what the 9 episodes we got of it, I'm like, was this fight justified? And then I'm kind of
which one are we talking?
of Zane and
Okay.
Darby. I was kind of like, does he have
Yeah,
like, it
she
kind of
totally
seems out
used.
of
Okay.
the blue, doesn't it?
But yes, but at the same time, I think she totally, if you look back through the first 8 episodes, she totally always uses him and
Yeah.
isn't really
Yeah.
there for him. It's like, oh,
Right.
come do this, like me,
Yep.
me, me, me. So like you said, yeah, Darby took a hit,
Yep.
even
Yeah.
though creepy guys in basements are totally where she shines.
Oh, well, anything else that you liked?
Well, we're in the don't like, right?
Oh, I thought you were going to keep going with likes.
Oh, no.
You just
I
asked
like I
me
said,
that
I agree
question,
with you.
so I
I
slid
well,
into the don't
mine
like.
gets into when we talk
Okay.
about some of the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of my big one, was the fighting. Like, for me, the Victoria and Darby, that fight was like brutal. And again, I'm much more team Victoria, and I feel like this episode you understand Victoria so much more about why she did what she did. And she's like, I had to make money, and she's like, no, it's all about your book. And totally, if that happened, like, and I'm, both of us being parents, you're like, yeah, you're thinking, how am I going to provide for my child? Like, that is what you are thinking. And so for her, Darby to not even be like, I should be thanking her for giving me this lifestyle. And that's where I think some of that can come off for probably Darby, is she did have a lot growing up. She did have a lot of opportunities. She looks like she came from money because, her mom built that up. And so she does come off, I think, very poorly. So that's why I didn't want to watch that next episode, because I wanted to stay in this energy when I reviewed this, and to see how are they going to move her character where we can at least stand her again. I mean, honestly, like, that's kind of where I'm curious to see if how does she recover from kind of what we as an audience feel towards her right now.
But I do think she is somewhat justified from what we know because Victoria, when she did get into it, was very singularly focused and maybe was not there as much because she's obviously was grieving and going through her own feelings, which we learned are not exactly like the grieving of, oh, my loved husband is gone, but it was, going through the whole processing of, I'm a single parent, I've got to figure this out. And so she was doing what she was, probably somewhat at the emotional expense of Darby. So I get from Darby, but to your point, at the very end of Darby, just like she proved it with her fight with Zayn and sort of there, but it's like me, me, me. And then at the end, like you said, she doesn't even acknowledge that perhaps her dad was not this, person that she thought, or like from like listening to Victoria, I mean, that was heart-wrenching what she said she was dealing with, how he would just tear her down and was just emotionally abusive to her. That as a daughter, you and what you've been going through, you think you would sort of connect a little bit and be like, okay, mom, I never knew that.
Right.
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 And
Right.
also her reaction was a lot, is that, but it was also, hey, you're going on the tour. Oh, you're leaving me and the Spencer sisters and what we did, like me once again. So I don't know. I agree with you. It was a little rough. For me, we'll roll into the mystery minute because that's sort of where for me, I liked the mystery in general, and to you, I thought it was great. I thought the actual, like, one of the things I've really enjoyed is the investigating and everything through there. I thought this one sort of did a lot more jumps a little bit, and so it wasn't as smooth of as an investigation as some of the other ones. So the, I liked the mystery. To your point, I liked the uh, the movie set aspect of it. I thought it was clever and all that. Though I did literally the first scene know who the killer was. Like, and part of it is I was thinking about it a little later. It's also because we don't get introduced to enough characters to really have, like we talked about before, the red herrings. You just don't get introduced to enough characters to think, oh, it could be somebody else. Because we knew it wasn't going to be, I forget what her name was, Candace, I think.
Hmm.
Was that her friend? Yeah. We knew it wasn't going to be Candace. So you really had like the producer who had a pretty good reason for not being it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I thought the mystery was good, but it wasn't my favorite as opposed to some of the other ones that we had. It was a dead body, which we've said, hey, they don't do dead bodies, very often, but they came back. Well, actually, no, he didn't die. He
I
didn't
was
die.
like, they
An
didn't like
almost
dead,
dead.
but I'm like, did I
Yeah.
miss it?
No. An almost dead body. He was on the edge.
Yeah, I loved the mystery. Personally, did I guess it right away? Yes, because as soon as he's like, "Oh, I have the same allergy," I'm like, "What are the odds of that?" Probably not high.
Right.
So, you kind of guessed that it was Ted slash Derek, and being that bad guy, you didn't know why. And so, again, I always like to see, oh, that's the reasoning why, and it made sense. Like that was a good reason,
Oh, see, I
why.
even figured out the reason why that he was going
Oh.
to, even before they did that, I'm like, he's going to be avenging a parent.
I didn't think that hard
So,
into it. I was working out as I was watching it. Also, I will say that Hallmark Plus sometimes the screen can get really fuzzy. I don't know if anyone else has. I watch it on my computer when I work out in my office, and a few times when I've tried to watch Fixer Upper, which we're reviewing later this week, and this episode of the Spencer Sisters, it was really blurry, and then all of a sudden, halfway through the episode, it kind of kicked on to clear. And so I don't know if it's a Hallmark
mm,
Plus thing or why it does that, but the whole time I watched Fixer Upper, it was so blurry on my computer. And I
interesting.
don't know why, but it
Mine
was it
was
was annoying.
glitchy,
Oh,
Fixer
mine no
Upper.
glitch, just blurry. So that's kind of annoying. Um, yeah, so that's I guess for mystery, that's all I had for myself. But standout scene and performance, I'm assuming we're probably gonna have the same one. Lucas getting stabbed with a drug that
Oh,
could kill
nope.
him. No, that wasn't your scene. What's your scene?
Well, mine is actually the guy is Brock the Stalker. He's played by John Lowe, who Hallmark people should know him.
I recognized him.
I'm guessing he's a Winnipeg guy because he's literally in every Jeff Beasley movie. He was in Christmas on Call, Carol for Two, Magic Wedding Drops, or The Magic of Lemon Drops, which isn't a Jeff Beasley one, but Haunted Wedding. He was in Holiday Hotline. He's just in so many Hallmark movies. But like I say, I found that character great. The whole scene was also good when he's there, and he's drinking out of the mug with Candace on it. And then it's like, oh, you want to see my tattoo? Hang on, I'll put on my Speedo. So it was just so funny seeing him do that role. But in addition, just the fact that he's just such a Hallmark mainstay in things that we see all the time.
Love it. Well, any other final thoughts that you have?
Let me just quickly one check here. I sent Jeff Beasley because when he was in there, nope. I did not get an answer back. I asked like, "Hey, do you have any good funny story about him?" And he did not respond. Well, share why that was such a good scene for you. You didn't say why it was your standout scene. You just said what it was.
Well, I just thought it was the most intense scene. Like I was like,
Okay.
oh, like it was a good hospital, like, oh, what's gonna happen? And obviously I figured they wouldn't kill Lucas off, but the way that they kind of edited it, like I'm sure that was commercial break, but I was like, oh, this is like, is he
Right.
gonna die? I had for a split second, I was like, what? And obviously the next scene, no. But I just thought it was really well done and it kind of kept you on the edge of your seat. So first one I've
Uh,
had like that, probably in any of the Spitzer sisters.
the one question I had though is like the door, like why did it lock? Like was that just
Well,
some
because they said if that was like your, I don't code white, and so if it means somebody was potentially either on, I'm assuming all doors in all rooms locked like that because you don't know
okay.
where the violent person is, and so you're locking
I missed
people
that one.
in, or they can't get out, so they can't attack other people. That's what I'm assuming was the reason.
Okay. Because I heard and like so I watched it twice and I just missed that. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense then.
yeah. Well, I will read a review. It is a 1-star review.
Of
Our podcast.
oh
Eric
my.
has, I just read it now because I was like, oh, well, see what else we have. Okay. I figured this one goes well with The Way Home. It's from JP Rainbow. Meh. I'm not sure why this podcast is covering The Way Home if they don't really know what's going on in the episodes. If you're going to review a show, give your opinion. It's probably a good idea to have some sort of clue what you're talking about. There are thousands of fans truly invested in this show that probably listen to this and shake their head. I don't know if we have thousands of fans, but thank you for thinking that. Don't recommend. There are others covering this show that know it well and do a great job of reviewing it and truly enjoy it. Thank you for your comments.
That's probably one of the other podcasts went and reviewed us.
No, no. I mean, hey, that's at least we are always up front. We are not your way home go-to people. We are for the average viewer who maybe is half paying attention to the way home.
Or we're the cynic of it, of providing the other side, because people who are like, oh my God, the best thing ever, without questioning things like how does the legacies continue? But whatever.
It's all right. That's all right. I mean, hey, nobody can be for
And
everyone, Eric.
no, but getting the 1 star for and it's like one thing we do for 10 weeks versus what we do for I think we're
I mean,
on
they might not watch the mysteries. That's
okay.
okay. So thanks for your feedback.
But you're right.
I
If
thought I'd
they're
read it.
coming to us as the expert for the way home, they
You
jumped
will
into the
be
wrong.
sadly disappointed.
They shouldn't go into another pond because
You will be sadly disappointed.
yes, we provide the other
Oh,
side.
right. Well, with that, Eric, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, I'm looking forward to getting on to what is it called? Lighthouse Cove, I think, and Shannon Hughes and Fixer Upper. So
Me too.
we'll be talking that next. So until then, Andrea, we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.